Good afternoon. We're getting ready for BidWinked, and we want to welcome you here to Gov School, and we'll get started here in just a minute. Thank you for joining us on YouTube Live. This is a recorded version. Please visit us at rfpdelivery.com. Good morning. My name is Mark Knowles. I'm one of the founders of Gov Directions, and I'm here today with Gov School to give you a session on what I call BidWinked. We're gonna have a little fun today. We're gonna poke around and see how to help you avoid going through and actually making mistakes where you end up paying out money you don't need to pay out. And so I don't want to make sure that you save that hard-earned money. And as part of this, we're going to walk through some things you need to watch out for when you first enter into this space. First of all, Gov Directions, located in Atlanta, Georgia. We've been in this market segment since 1998. This session here today is a product of our Gov School. We launched back about 10 years ago, where we learned internally that it's helpful if we try to provide some education, and that will help you be more successful. So we like to call it helping you learn to win. Our primary objective, though, of course, is to deliver those bids to you every day through rfpdelivery.com. And we're hoping you're using that service. We put in within that various intelligence information to help you watch out for, maybe not the best practices that you might find out there. There's maybe, I think, using the word scruples could be even appropriate, in making sure that you're not falling into traps that you don't need to fall into. And so what I'm going to do today is share a couple of those with you in our series called BidWinked. I like this quote here. There's a famous episode with President Bush when he fumbled it up a little bit. Our elected leaders sometimes do that, and but it is a quote. And at the end of it, I'm asking you who actually gave you this quote and how long has it been around? But the quote is, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me." And so I want to, everybody can fall for it one time, but you fall for it twice. Let's not let that happen. So this one here is a real fun class called BidWinked. First thing I wanted you to make sure you watch out for, okay, is the setup. Okay, and I call this, it just confuse the hell out of you. Okay, so it's basically sending you emails and sending you all kinds of information when you first register, either with a local, state, or a federal agency, and then capturing some of that public information. Like here I have our cage code and our company name. They actually drop the lowercase d there as an automated system, as you might imagine. But it's we use the capital D. So right away I knew something that wasn't quite right. And coming to you, and you don't really quite know what they're talking about. And the design of the overall setup is really just to confuse you. A lot of times they'll use some formal information, really scary words, like here you got the federal acquisition regulations, and you may not be considered, being very assertive in their process. Some sort of audit, they're always mentioning audits, and also deficiencies is a common word to watch out for. But having some familiarity with your information, you're like, wow, how did you get that? Of course, this is public information, and as soon as it's released, these companies grab it and then send that information to you, and pretty quickly they're telling you that you have to hire them to do something, and you don't quite know what it is, and you're just confused. And before you know it, they got your credit card and you out $600 to $2,000. Don't let that happen to you. Anytime you get an email from a federal agency. Now, just know that it could be confusing, so make sure you read through it, but it will always have a .gov address. So look for that, .gov, and then that will help you in the process. Next, you'll see common places they want you to register. And I call this register you forever and ever and ever and ever. And there's 140,000 plus agencies in the United States that you could potentially register with you. And not only that, but you can pay them all the fees if you want. Pretty soon though, you're going to be broke and you're going to be out of time. And you don't want to have that happen to you in the process. And so know that the only place that you need to register is most likely with SAM and the System for Award Management. Let me just answer a question here. Okay, and watch out for that. I have a class on registration in the process to help you with that. Sometimes I say, go ahead, not only do SAM, and I had a class yesterday on how to register with SAM, but you also may want to look at your state that you're in and the largest county in your area. But once you get those three, then stop. Okay, you don't really need to register. Now, it doesn't hurt you as you have some extra time to go out and register with some other states. You know, I do business in Georgia, so I'm registered there. I also like to work in the Dakotas, so I register out there. There's a purpose behind that, and it's voluntary. And I'm not going to shell out any kind of money in order to register. Okay, but once you register with SAM, you're good. That's the System for Award Management. It's easy enough to drop to it. You just pay attention to the questions. Make sure you got all your data correct with your Secretary of State, and you're matching that. Okay, have that in front of you when you're answering the questions, and so that way you can have it exact, including all the way down to the comma or the way the name is spelled. Same things like this. Your email address. Don't mess up with any of that basic information, because otherwise you can find yourself in a whirlwind of problems, and you're not able to get out of that, and it's very complicated and it slows you down. If you do it all right, you'll go through there, you'll be registered early within a day or so. We'll say verify your corporate records. Okay, it needs to match 100%. But after that, though, you don't need to register forever and ever and ever. It just really is way too much time. It can cost you a lot of money. The other common theme that's out there is you can't bid without us, or without this, or without that, or without, it's just not the case. If you're a company and you're able to do business, you can, and you meet that match what the government's looking for, then you can bid. Okay. The only exception to this is SAM in the federal government. You can't bid without being in SAM. Okay. That's at the federal level only, has nothing to do with the local and state governments. And so that's important for you to understand that. And the federal government is just so big. It's a System for Award Management. It's how they're going to pay you. So it's the accounts payable system. And you want to make sure that you're in there and so that you can get paid if you should win a government contract with the federal government. The truth of the matter is likely not to bid not to win one at the federal level to start with. You need to have some local and state. And with the local and state, they want to make sure that you can provide the services. They're going to list those services. They're going to itemize them, and then you're going to provide them back to the government itself. Okay, and so that's all you need. Now, I'm going through one right now, helping someone write a RFP response or a bid response to down in Texas. Now, there's going to be some affidavits, and there's going to be some forms that you have to sign, and some things you have to agree to. That, of course, is going to be unique to the individual bid. Oftentimes, unique to the bid within the state, of course. And so, if one government is asking you that, another government in that same state is going to ask you the same types of information. So just keep the forms, and then you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Okay, but you don't have to have certifications. You don't have to have this and that, and you don't need to wait for training and so forth. It's just not necessary. Most of us could get the job done. There's going to be some exceptions if you are going to go after a set aside type transaction, then you would need it. But the truth of the matter is, most of us don't get to that point until we get some smaller, medium-sized contracts under our belt that are not set asides. And so just be aware of that. So if you ever heard the term, you can't bid without this, then know it's potentially our friend there, with the scruples and the breath control. Okay. So watch out for that. And then the other one is you can't bid until you do this, and I can help you with it. Okay. The other, the common one is Can't build until you get your capability statement right. Well, the truth of the matter is you can. Now, a capability statement has a purpose. The primary purpose is to get it out there for you so when you can respond to a source of salt, just not a bid, or a request for information. Those are where the government's trying to determine if there's a marketplace. You're going to need that capability statement, and there are some folks who can help you with that, but it's not limiting to the actual bid itself. And so if you do hear that terminology, you can't bid until you do this training, this document that you have to do, and so forth. You just, and then they can help. Okay, and it's not a .gov address. Then you're basically setting yourself up. So be careful with that. Okay, if you ever do hear that comment. Now, we're a private company, so what makes us a little different? Why should you believe what we do? Well, there's a theme. In 1998, when we created our services, the primary goal that we were trying to help you with and provide a business solution to was the fragmentation of government. And so essentially there's 35,000 plus cities and towns, 3,000 plus counties, school districts of all kinds. In fact, this number is mushroomed because we've learned to educate our children in different ways, specifically with the pandemic. And now special districts, these are organizations that oftentimes most of us don't even know they exist. They have a board making decisions. They usually to provide a service in the community, like a hospital system, a transit system, the parks and rec, the downtown development authority, for example. Now that number is probably going to be 40,000 this coming year, growing each day, almost always with a unique ability to procure specifically off the books of the primary governments that are using them. And so that produces, the fragmented system. And that's why I use this puzzle to illustrate how GovDirections and RFP delivery pulls that information together for you. So you're not going everywhere to kind of track it down. Now, of course, a lot of these companies, these governments now, not a lot of them, truthfully about 4,000 out of this 100 plus number of agencies, they'll use a third-party provider. And oftentimes the third-party providers will suggest you need to register with them over and over, going back to that theme of registering forever and ever and ever and ever. And, $10 here, $10 there adds up to much more than the money than you really need to spend in this sector. And in fact, most of these governments, even if you're a custodian, they're only going to get issued one custodial bid a year, and you're paying all of them. That just doesn't make any sense. It's just, in fact, that's why most states, in fact, all states have now have put in place legislation that basically requires local state agencies to provide the information to you at no charge. And so whenever you go in, if you see an option with a third party where the government has pushed you to a system where they're collecting information, first of all, be aware of your privacy rights. The second part is know that they always have to provide you a free option, and just choose it. You'll get all the same information you need. There is no value there. Now, aggregation itself is of value. And if those type services that they may provide, you'd certainly price those out and consider those. But when you price it by agency, it gets very unaffordable really quickly. Okay. And so in our system, we have federal information completely free. It's an overlay of the federal process. All the bids are there, and you're able to see those and go straight to SAM. Now, SAM is only one federal source. You have the Defense Logistics Agency, the Navy Bulletin Board, GSA. All of that information would be within GovDirections and RFP delivery. And then, so they're all complementary. Okay. We then add the value based on your state or your region level, and then potentially national if you're a national service. And then if you're international, we serve now in 72 countries. And so I just wanted to share with you today a variety of things to watch out for, and remind you of that old quip: fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me. And that's been around since 1650 by politician Anthony Weldon, he's the first has been attributed to that comment. And so with that said, thank you for joining me this morning to talk about BidWinked and some of the items that you need to be concerned about with GovSchool. I certainly appreciate your time. Thank you and have a great day.